Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another week here at Wired Differently. We've got me, Christina Blue Hooper, your resident business designer, Victoria, the Queen Caldwell, fractional COO and expert at all of your people systems, and mindset, Melanie Branch, expert at getting your brain tamed so you can do the stuff you need to do every week, right? All right, guys, we have got a fun topic, a serious topic, but we're going to make it fun. What to do when you're overwhelmed by financial strain? That's a big one, right? That's a big, heavy one, especially for so many people. They're going into holiday season. They're maybe not making the money that they hope to make. Young business owners might be suffering their first kind of seasonal slowdown. If you're not used to that, that's a thing that happens. A lot of times people don't want to invest in things right here at the end of the year. They're busy. They've got a lot going on. They don't have the mental calories and the emotional calories freed up to make investments, particularly in more expensive things. So, I mean, really thinking about what's going on with your audience, understanding some seasonal shifts and starting to learn how to prepare for those is something I think a lot of people have to really think about, right? We've got election seasons. I can tell you in my experience in 18 years, we've gone through a few elections as an entrepreneur. And regardless of what's going on, what the political views are, et cetera, election years can be a little leaner. People don't like to invest when things are uncertain. And regardless of where you stand politically, things are uncertain in election years, right? People wonder about what's coming. They're paying attention to their dollars. But on the flip side, you also have some companies that are trying to spend leftover budget to reduce their tax burden. Mm-hmm. So if you're working with larger companies, and you need to be having those conversations now because they're budgeting for the next year. And you need to be part of that budget. So it's kind of like some quick hot takes on just making sure you understand what's going on in the market and that there are things that are out of your control in a lot of ways, but we can prepare for them. We can adapt to them. We can understand that it's not necessarily something that we're doing that can cause a slowdown in our business. It's bigger than us sometimes. So that's one message that I really want to get across, right? Because we tend to think that we're at fault for so many things, and entrepreneurship is much bigger than just us.
I would like to also throw my hat into the ring because so much of it is mindset. And that's why people fail, is because they try to out strategize a fixed mindset and refuse to take accountability for their role in what is happening. Because really, if you have...
That's the Mercury.
You really got to figure out the messaging around the value. People don't buy when they don't see the value. So if you have something that's incredible, mess around with your messaging before you go launch something else.
Yeah. And the business designer in me is like, make sure you actually do have something that is valuable.
Yeah.
Because so many of us put together products and services because bro marketer A told us to, right? We saw so many TikToks about it, or so many Facebook posts about it, or so many Instagram posts about it. And we bought a course and we went to their free workshop and this is the thing we need to do. And they never asked themselves, would that work for me? And would that work for my customers?
Yeah.
And right? Messaging gets easier if it's set up the right way.
And communicating the value. Because there are a lot of people who are very valuable, but they have valuable services. They fail to make the connection between why this is valuable and how valuable it is. We have these conversations all the time,
All the time.
And even within ourselves, with our clients, making sure we're communicating because we're so close to it, right? Yep. And sometimes when you're so close to it, you don't get to see. Like you don't see the picture when you're in the frame. So when you're delivering,
Melanie in her pen, she's like, whoa, writing it down.
I think when you deliver enough value, one thing I learned from one of my mentors is that your money situation is a direct reflection of the value that you're creating in the marketplace, not the value that you have. Because you can have it and be sitting on it and you're not communicating it, but it's the value that you're creating. So, I always teach the formula, wealth equals values times leverage. If you're putting it out there, if you're not putting it out there correctly, then you're not. And then the value, the side of the value of the value side of the equation controls the money flow and how fast the money flows.
Yeah.
So if you have value and it's not getting out in a big way, then the money is going to flow, and it's going to flow slower. It's like a waterfall. One waterfall might trickle and the other one is Niagara, you know.
Yeah.
And then, the leverage side of it is what it allows you to expand. But if you're not creating the value to begin with, there's nothing to expand. So you don't get leverage without value. And when your value is constrained, like you have too much demand, then your supply can't, then you can move to value. Some people are looking at scaling whatever, and it's like you can't even serve what you got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, that's a big one. Setting
That's a big
realistic
one, right.
expectations for what you can actually handle too, because people
Yeah.
look at some of these strategies to go get clients and they're seeing all these case studies and success stories and testimonials where people are like, I managed to bring in 100 new clients or book 100 sales calls.
Right.
Most of the people I talk to, if they got 100 sales calls on their calendar in the next 30 days, they would be overwhelmed
Yeah.
just at doing those calls. Forget if you actually sell to people and now you have to service all of that. Just
Exactly.
100 sales calls would overwhelm most of the people that we talk to.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like you don't necessarily need a big engine to bring in a bunch of big clients if you can't handle that.
Right.
Right. Most people I know, like 2 or 3 new clients in a month, they're on cloud 9.
Yeah.
They're on cloud 9. Right.
Which brings me to the point. It's like one thing I've learned with working with a lot of entrepreneurs is they don't tend to be the best at managing finances, managing money, which is pretty much, people love selling to creators because creators spend money quick.
Mhm.
Quick. I met a guy at TNC. He was like, oh, I like those kind of people. They spend money, and and they do, because they make decisions quick. They spend money quick. They can bring it in quickly usually, but they can also get rid of it just as quickly,
True.
And so a lot of times I would look at getting help with managing finances. And so there also needs to be some discipline around that, because a lot of that is undisciplined spending and not looking at what do we got going out every month versus do we need this right now? Can we get rid of something? Do people owe us money? All of these things where money is just either just going away from you, or money that could be coming in is not, because you're too busy trying to chase down new money when you're sitting on money that's already there.
Yeah. That's like one of the biggest shifts that has to happen from like a mindset perspective with money for entrepreneurs is having cash on hand, right? So really prioritizing cash in the bank so that you do have the ability to create leverage by investing in assets instead of liabilities. Right. So like, what does that mean? We're not going to take on debt just to take on debt. We're not taking on debt just to have more money in our pocket right this moment, right? I know we get all these sexy loans. Stripe does them, PayPal does them. So many people do them. They throw them in front of you. Speaking from experience, you get in a lot of trouble with those. A lot of trouble really fast, because if you don't have a strategy for how you're going to invest that extra money into assets, right? Not liabilities. Assets are things where your money's going to make money babies. If we don't have a clear plan for how the money's going to make money babies, we're not spending the money on an asset, we're spending it on a liability.
Right. And that's
right. And a clear plan doesn't mean if I buy this software, that means I can go do XYZ and hopefully that will make me money. That's not a plan. We need to have enough data, foresight, conversations with humans to know that if I buy the software and I do XYZ, then within X time frame, I will be able to double my investment, triple my investment, 10X my investment. If we don't know how we're getting our money back from where we spend it, we shouldn't be spending
it. Any financial, hey, who's there? Thank you for joining us. Oh, from LinkedIn. In this one, you have to get with a good and a reputable financial planner who can help you organize yourself, set goals, and keep you accountable.
Yeah.
Set
I mean, like, I
goals,
just had a
set
student
plan.
thank me for some advice I gave them like a year ago when I was like, when you start making more money in business, one of the things that shifts is you stop like paying in advance for your software, right? Like so many software companies offer you 2 months free if you pay for a year in advance.
Yeah.
What that does is it makes you cash poor.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly laying out for like annual things, especially if your licenses are going to change, if you have staff, if you have different needs, things are going to go up and down. But she came back and thanked me. She's like, if I would not have made that shift when I had a hard time here recently, they were in the flooding and whatever, they wouldn't have had what they needed to be able to survive that downturn.
Yeah.
It helped her keep more cash on hand, right? So we have to think about those kind of things. So we have the money to invest when it comes up. Now, I want to hand Melanie a little bit of a soapbox right here too, because part of this topic is what to do when you're overwhelmed by financial strain. And from a mindset perspective, when we get overwhelmed by things, we tend to do bad things.
Yeah.
So like, what are some stuff that you see and how can you like maybe stop the overwhelmed train before it takes you where you didn't want to go?
Let us remember that overanalyzing and overthinking and preparing for every possible negative hypothetical scenario or outcome and just replaying all of those things that are going to happen is not doing you any good. I know you're saying to yourself, well, if I get prepared for every possible negative outcome, nothing can come and take me out at the knees. But what's actually happening is that you're not finishing the thought with every possible good outcome, right? The same way that all your favorite shows and all your favorite books have your main character and your hero going through all sorts of trials and tribulations, and then something comes in that they didn't even realize was happening, and it fixes the problem, and now they're on enjoying themselves for a moment, and then the next problem comes, right? It's always worse in your head than it is in real life. And we're putting ourselves through unnecessary strain and stress, and it's a fiasco, really. When we look at these female founders all the time, all these entrepreneurs are like, well, and it's like, that hasn't even happened, and your body and your brain believe that it's happened. You now have that memory, and it was just from your imagination. So we got to think about, where are we focusing? Pull the focus back and focus on, what can you solve? Can you get in your DMs and start messaging people that you've had conversations with before, right? Can you get with ChatGPT and have him help you create a plan? I'm good at talking to people. Victoria's good at talking to people. It's something we genuinely enjoy. I was the kid that was knocking on people's doors saying, can your kid come play? And I've never even met the kid, right? How did I know they were there? I don't know. But alas, here we are. Christina doesn't like talking to people. So if Christina's going to try this plan, she's going to have to go to ChatGPT and say, hey, bud, I need to reach out to 10 people and try and sign 2 of them to save my business. ChatGPT is going to say, cool, let's try this, let's try that. But a lot of the times, and I was just talking about this on my live this morning, humans have 2 natural fears that we are born with. Then there's no other fear that you're born with. One is falling, valid. And the other is loud noises, also valid, because it could mean something's falling on you. But every other fear, failure, rejection, success, all those fears are learned. So if you know that even if you fix all those fears that you learned, you're still going to be afraid of 2 things, maybe we just learn how to do it scared.
Mm.
And your pivot, your reframe for,
like they said, courage is not the absence of fear.
It's doing it even though you're afraid.
No, you're afraid. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I forget what your reframe was. That was even if. I can't even remember.
Even if. Okay, so instead of saying what if, right? It's Mercury retrograde right now. If I was about to be doing a virtual paid public speaking gig, and I was sitting here going, what if the internet goes out? What if my phone breaks? What if my camera breaks? Can you imagine how I could go over every possible potential negative scenario if I'm using the what if? You switch it to even if. Even if my internet goes out, we'll get through it. Even if they don't like what I have to say, we'll get through it. Because frankly, I'm a tough bitch and I've gotten through everything that's ever gotten put in my path before. Why would I think that it's going to be any different moving forward?
See, I liked that reframe so much, I couldn't even remember what it was reframing. I couldn't even remember the original phrase anymore. And she also said something when she was saying this to a student the other day. The feedback they gave is, I like to think about all the different scenarios so that when one of them happens, I'm not surprised. Melanie said, when you do that, it's like having all the browser tabs open in your brain for all the things that could happen. I'm like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Because I am like, you know, some people brag about, like, for some reason, it's like this badge of honor that I have 50 tabs open on my browser. I'm like, if I see 50 tabs open, I realize that's a sign that I'm getting distracted. I'm getting discombobulated. I actively go start shutting down things I no longer need to be taking up space. And the concept of doing that in my brain too was like, what? Like,
It's
I'm
like they're not
OCD about
committing to
tabs.
anything. What happened with the student is we said, what are you doing for the holiday? And the student said, well, somebody's supposed to come over and cook and la 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 la. And right when I heard that word supposed to, I was walking into my kitchen and I was like, "Arr!" And I was like, you're going to have to say this real nice. I know you're going to have to say, but we have to say this. And I said, can I just ask why you said they're supposed to? Do you think they're not coming? Is there a good chance that they're not coming? Like what? And she's like, no, I just want to be prepared for every possible scenario. And again, if you're prepared for every scenario, how are you going to execute on any of them?
Right.
Yeah. I like what
It
Axel said.
sabotages everything. And then sometimes it's an excuse not to do what you really need to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fear of success sabotages us in so many weird ways.
You end up
brought up a
manifesting
good
the
point
very
over here,
thing
too.
you fear. That's the thing. When you fear something, you manifest the result just because if I do this, this is going to happen. And you end up doing all of the stuff that is going to
Yeah, you want to know the science behind that? It's because you're setting your nervous system up to identify the causes of that thing and choose those causes because that's what you're prepared for. So if you're saying, I'm prepared for my family getting drunk and upset and crazy on Thanksgiving, every decision you make is going to be to support that thought instead of saying, I am going to hold myself like a lady and tell people to get the fuck out when they act out of pocket, because then your nervous system is going to make that happen. Your brain is only here to validate what you tell it to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're driving and like whatever you look at is where the car tends to go.
Yep.
Right. Whatever we're focused on is what we tend to drive towards.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when it happens, you can say, see?
Yeah. Like, see, I told you so. Right. And then we get validated.
So,
like
but
we can
you
do it again.
created that scenario. You created that reality.
So think about how easy it would be to create the reality you want.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we say to do all the time, and Axel's kind of mentioning this over here in the comments too, is that we have to align what we're doing with the people. We have to solve a problem for somebody, right? Yeah. We have to be looking at what humans want. We have to be solving those problems. So he says, you know, he builds a problem solution, then he checks the market. So he identifies a problem, he creates a solution to the problem, checks the market to validate that they want this solution, would like this solution, and only then starts to construct an offer. That is the smart way to do it.
No, we talked about this before, like how many times we put out products and services without validating that there's something that the market actually wants.
Yeah. And not only that, but I mean, we talk about messaging is one of the biggest problems that people have. They can't figure out how to explain to people what their thing is. If you built the thing with people in their input in mind, guess whose language you have? The people you're trying to sell it to. You have their words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not trying to figure out how do I explain it because they told you what they wanted. And you say, if this is what you're looking for, guess what? Here, buy it. Here you go. Right. And we have their language.
That's
the messaging
so hard for a lot
of
people, especially introverts. You know, me, Melanie, somebody, it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just go talk to people. That's fun.
Yeah.
But I deal with a lot of introverts. And it's like they're terrified. Of course, they would rather sit on ChatGPT or anything else, do research or somewhere without talking to a human. And I'm like, how are you supposed to build what a human wants if you won't talk to a human? And it's just so terrifying for some. They just don't want to do it. And I always say, don't build it. And, you know, like I told you, I was dealing with a software person, build out a whole software and is continuing to work on it, but hadn't talked to one single person that wanted to sell to.
Yeah. And you're selling a solution, not a service, right? Yeah. So many people forget about that. We are supposed to be solving for something. So like, you know, every entrepreneur ends up needing a website somewhere along the way, right? So you go out to hire someone and somebody's like, I build websites. And you're like, okay, cool. Maybe you. Let me go talk to a couple more people, but I might be back. You go to the next person. What would you like out of your website? Oh, well, I want more leads. Okay, cool. So I build websites that get you leads. Okay, cool. Then you go talk to the next person, and they're like, well, leads is a good goal, but let hear me out. Would you like paying customers? Because we can get you lots of leads, but what we really want is paying customers, right? We want to know that we're getting the right leads that will convert, and we want to have the systems and stuff in place to actually convert those leads. So now you're going to actually make more money. So the problem is I want more money. The solution is this website that can get me more money. Right? Which website developer are you more likely to hire? The one who actually understood the solution you're looking for, or the one who just said, I give websites?
Yeah. Well, let's also make it very clear. You got to like the people that you work with. I have asked so many people recently who are like, well, this is the business I want to launch. This is the thing I want to pivot. I want to do this. Da, da, da. And I said, okay, well, who do you want to work with? And they literally all go like, who do I want to hire? And I'm like, no, who do you want to talk to every day or every week or whatever it is for this service? Like, who do you want to talk to? And they're like, well, anybody who's having this problem. And I'm like, really? Do you want to work with somebody who's like this, and this? Or like, no. Okay, do you want to work with somebody who's like this, and this? No. Well, they're having that problem. They're like, oh. I say, yeah, really get specific with who you want to be spending your time with. Figure out their problems. Figure out how you're really good at solving that, right? Like, look to what you're naturally good at. If you're naturally good at talking to people is probably going to be part of your solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like at the academy, we figured out that what a lot of our students are looking for is validation and confidence that they have what it takes to scale, right? That they know how to run a business that can actually hit the numbers and the goals and deliver at the success rate that they want for their clients. They want to know that they can do a good job for people and make good money and start to hire people and start to expand and not have all the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
Right. So knowing that that's what they want, we said, well, 10 case study level clients would validate that, right? That you enjoyed the experience, they enjoyed the experience, you made a promise of a result, you delivered on the promise of the result, and you can do it again. You've done it 10 times and you can do it 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we put all of our effort, all of our combined brain power into how do we get you to that point, right?
Yeah.
That is incredibly stinking specific. And it's not playing small at all. That is a lot of work. And it took 3 different people plus the people that we consult with to create a curriculum that can do that. Right? That's not a small thing to tackle, but it's incredibly specific.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Incredibly specific. Like some of the stuff that Axel's saying over here too, like number one problem, not talking in the voice of your client. Yes. Yeah.
And you have to know who they are and interact with them.
Yeah. And the language they know and use right now, right? People like to make all these analogies when it comes to clients with like comparing them to relationships and not proposing marriage on the first thing. I like to think of it more like children that we have to raise to a certain point, right? We have more knowledge, experience, life in this area than they do. We have to raise them up. We have to educate them enough. We have to hold their hand for a bit until they can walk on their own. Right? I think that's a better analogy because we have to meet them where they're at. When we try to explain something to a 5-year-old, we do not use the same language that we would use to explain something to a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
We know they don't have that knowledge to understand it at that level yet. We're not going to talk down to them or demean them, but we're going to meet
an intimate relationship with that 5-year-old, so we know their capacity. We interact with them regularly. We talk to them. We get to, even to Axel's point, you'll start to learn, you talk to your market enough, you'll start to learn their language, like let's say the baby language. You start to know what their language means. You coming from it, you're the solution. You have the solution. So you're going to come with solution language, but they don't have the solution. Yeah. So they're going to use a lot of times a totally different language. They might use words and phrases that you didn't even think. I was in a course last night and that topic came up, and someone realized by talking to the clients or the potentials that they were using a particular phrase that they would have never thought to use. Mm-hmm. But that was the phrase that their ideal clients across the board were using. So they had to go back and build that into the messaging.
We can go a step further too with however you choose to build your community. Because one of my clients and friends, Kirsten, who I've worked with on and off literally since 2021. Hey, Kirsten, love you. She always called it a muggle job. And when she first said muggle job, I instantly was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I love it. And now I use that term all the time. And I actually had one of my followers reach out to me yesterday in the DMs, finding out about my coaching programs. She said she's been following me for a year. So I started asking her the questions, like, okay, are you also, and I did not use the term muggle job in this DM. I was like, are you working a regular 9-to-5 job to support building this business? And she straight up, it was like, oh, I do have a muggle job, da 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 da. And I was like, oh, it's catching like fire, baby. People are really understanding. Because if it's a word that gives you such a visual response and it separates you from the pack, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And something else Axel mentioned over here is offering something that they can do anyway. That is so important. I think when we get so focused on something that we're trying to sell, that is the only thing we can see.
Yeah.
And we just assume that we're doing something wrong if people aren't buying it, right? Like, nobody's buying this. It must be, my messaging must be wrong. The product must be wrong. The price must be wrong. My audience targeting. We go for all these things. They could simply just not be ready now.
Yeah.
Period. Could be the right person. They have the money to invest, but this time, this moment in their life is not it. Right? They feel like they need, like we were talking to somebody just the other day, I think me and Victoria and Claudine, and they were like, I haven't invested yet because I know once I do, I won't leave. So I want to be in the right mindset to sign up for the academy. And because she's like, I know I'm not going anywhere. Once I get in, I'm not going anywhere. So I want to be ready to commit, like at that level. Nobody would ever think about that as an objection. That I want to make sure once I start, I'm good.
That was a powerful objection, because it was like, you think about all the other excuses. This one was like, I know. She knew that she was going to have to commit and follow through and do the work. And it was, but it came down to the most powerful objection that we talk about. You got 3. They don't believe you. They don't believe in your system. But the most powerful is they don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
She was doubting her ability at some way to keep. She knows she was going to stay, but she was also going to have to do what came with staying. It was going to mean she was going to have to step up. So some of the things she was saying, she wasn't saying certain things, but she was saying them. That meant I got to follow through. I got to commit. I got to do the work. I have to do all of this, because she already knows that we're going to do our part. She's going to have to do hers.
Yeah, and saving up to be a good client, saving up that time and that energy and that space to be your dream client, like that's what you want, right? So like to Axel's point, if we give them something they can do anyway to get started, right? Like I get that's a big commitment for you. You're not quite ready for that. Cool. In the meantime, here's this.
Join my 2 Picks a Day group on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. So Melanie does that to help you build confidence in taking photos on a regular basis. That I've gotten so many compliments on my new profile picture that came from doing the 2 Picks a Day group. Took a picture right after I got my makeup and hair going, and like standing in the bathroom and poor lighting and everything, right? Like the power of editing. Awesome sauce. But I just had a bunch of pictures to choose from, and I flipped through and I found one, spent a little bit of time editing it, and poof. Right? We have our No More Shiny Objects workshop converted to on demand at the Academy. People can do that. You can subscribe to the show. You can get on our email newsletter. I think there's like a couple of lead magnets floating around over there that are some like guides and ebooks you can get a hold of. We do a 30-day free trial so you can test it out, right? But like this person was even afraid to start the free trial because she's like, once I get in, I'm staying. Right? So having those other offers that meet someone where they're at right now, they don't have to be super time consuming, but they do make a great way to keep people in your ecosystem and be like, I get you're not ready for this yet. I understand. And there is power in telling your audience, I understand.
I hear you.
Made a separate option. Yeah. People want to feel heard. They want to feel seen. And a lot of the typical like bro marketery stuff does not make people feel heard and seen.
Yep.
Right? They buy it anyway because they can't find a different option. That doesn't mean it's working. That just means you were the loudest voice in a small space.
Let's also consider, and we've talked about this over and over and over again, but I get on everybody's email list just because I want to see what people are doing, right? If you got a freebie or something that's cheap, I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna do some recon. But if somebody says, I did this system XYZ and had $1 million launch, and they don't mention how big their email list was before, how big their social media platform is before, how many people are on their team, how many times they've done this launch, or how many times they've launched anything else, do not assume that your 200 email list, which is great. I want you to keep building that email list, damn it, because it's a lot harder to get that taken away from you than it is to get your TikTok platform taken away from you. But I want you to really think about, am I taking advice from somebody who has a wife and I am a wife? Or am I taking advice from somebody who is playing my role?
Yeah.
Comparison will kill you if you let it.
And they don't say, it's like, okay, I did $1 million launch. Okay, but how much did you keep? How much did you spend in that? I mean, we can go on that for days.
Yeah, I've talked to I don't know how many people that brag about those. You know me, I'm like autistically curious about business models and about everything that people do. So I go ask those uncomfortable questions, and for the love of me, I don't know why so many people answer, but they do.
They
I
do.
can't tell you how many $1 million launches that I've went and talked to people and said, okay, what was your profit margin from that? And they're like, oh, we were negative like $100,000 or negative like $250,000. We're hoping to make it up on the upsells and backsells on the flip side. We anticipate profit on that. Dude, if you didn't know that and you tried to replicate their funnel and you couldn't afford $100,000 deficit on the launch, like.
Exactly. And when I do them, I always, I lay out the expenses, like, because I've done it so many times, I know what to expect and what I'm not willing to do, because I don't like debt.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't like debt, in that, ineffective, that's not working to do something, it's just throwing money like that. But I also know what the expenses are. Okay, if we're going to go here, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, this is about what we should be able to spend to do this, and this is what it's going to cost, and working all of that out beforehand and recognizing that, okay,
yeah,
this is what we're going to do, this is the plan, because you don't want to, it doesn't matter if you're in debt. You're already in debt. I mean, you don't do all of that, but that's how as you would say, bro marketers pitch, and they're not all bros. Sometimes they're not.
Well, you got to think too, are they enjoying themselves? Right? Like anybody who's marketing and they're like, you want to make as much as possible. You want to do this. I don't want to make as much money as possible. I want to enjoy myself as much as possible.
I want to be fulfilled. I want to enjoy my life. And like somebody told me years ago, this was probably well over a decade ago, maybe not as long. And he said, and it was a guy too, so maybe that was part of the issue. And one of the first questions, he was like, are you running $1 million business? And I said, no. And he was just like, well, how could, he said something, but it was to the tune of, why don't you have $1 million? And I'm like, that was never my goal.
Yeah.
It was never my goal. Now, have I helped others? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Have I helped it? That was their goal. It wasn't ever my goal. Not that I can't do it or couldn't do it. It's more or less, is this what I want for my life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love so many people telling you that you should have $1 million business. Look, if you're making less than $250,000 a year, half of that's going into your pocket, right? Half of that's your paycheck. That's $125K a year. Even if you get to a $500,000 business and you can set it up where half of that goes into your paycheck, that is $250,000 a year. If you have other strategies to create financial stability, if you're investing in real estate, if you're investing in the stock market, if you're doing all these other things on the side, you may not need to take more than $250 a year in a paycheck.
I had a coach that had us do this exercise one time because here's two things. One, $1 million is a prove it number. You can do 300,000 and that could be a feel good number. Mm-hmm. So is this a prove it number or is it a feel good number? Two, what do you actually need to have the lifestyle that you want? And a lot of times it's not. And thirdly, Sometimes you're running $1 million business and you're taking home a whole lot less money than you would be if you were making $250,000 or less, because now
You've got staff, you've got advertising, the more money you make, the more you got to spend.
The more you got to spend, you got more operating expenses. So I was doing some calculations, and I was doing some calculations the other day, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'd be better off in this range with this than this range with that.
Yeah, we're kind of talking about this question that we had in our queue.
So
budgeting, really right? Like all those numbers that you just said, I don't think I've had a single person that could answer those questions. Because usually when I'm talking with somebody in like the early stages of business design or talking with some of our new students on campus, that's some of the first stuff I ask. I'm like, how is money flowing in right now? Right? Like, I don't care where it's coming from, how much is flowing in, where is it coming from? Do you enjoy it, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, how much do you need it to be? And they're, oh, well, I just want to not be as broke as I am right now. And I'm like, okay, but how much do you need it to be for that to be true?
That's like going to a restaurant and telling the server when they say, what do you want? You say, well, I don't want a baked potato and I do not want a Caesar salad. And it's like, okay, tell me what you do want. That's what we got to move forward with.
Yeah. And I mean, usually I end up having to sit there and kind of do that math with them. Right? Yeah. I have to do that math with them. I can tell you, if you don't know a starting point to that, if you're in the US, if you're a US based entrepreneur, on average, to live even a basic life where you can afford like healthcare and food and, basic healthcare, not like major things going wrong, you need to be making about $130,000 a year in most areas of the US. Now, that is average. Right? Where I live is one of the cheapest areas in the country. If you live in Seattle, 130K is not your number. Right? And for me, less than 130K is fine. Like around 100K is good quality of life where I live. Right? So it's usually anywhere from like 100 to about 200, 250K, depending on where you live. Right? But you have to know those things. You have to do the math. You have to do the numbers. You have to actually think about where you're making money, how you're making money. You need to you can't just like say, well, if I can get people in on this, I can upsell them to that. Okay. At what rate? Mm-hmm. If you sell 10 people thing A, how many people can you get to buy thing B? Typically, what's average? What's expected? Right? Is it 2? Is it 8? Because it's very different when you're budgeting the success of thing A and its ability to get people into thing B.
Yeah.
Right. If you can get 80% of people versus 20% of people, those are very different numbers.
Yeah.
And for the whole topic of this show, it's being overwhelmed, mindset issue, and poor budgeting, planning before you even walk through the door, before you even launch the entrepreneurship, before you start, you're in debt or you have poor spending habits. There's no discipline around money. You don't know how money works. You literally need that information, not just for the business side, for life. You need to know how money works. And like I was listening to one of my advisors the other day, and when he talks about he doesn't call it an emergency fund, but a fund that you need to have. He has that kind of fund, like, okay, if something happens. But then he has one that most advisors would say you need 3 to 6 months to, living expenses. He says 12 to 18, minimum 12. And he was like, the pandemic showed us this, but most Americans, if they got a $400 bill, like 40% can't handle like $400. That would just literally derail them without taking on debt. That's really, that's just not an entrepreneurship thing. That seems to be an American thing because they make getting debt so easy.
Well, and especially as entrepreneurs, our metrics are different, right? When people say the 3 to 6 month emergency fund, that was based on if you lost your job, the average amount of time it takes to find another one, right? That's where 3 to 6 came from. As entrepreneurs, we could have a bad year. which is why we need 12 to 18 of living expenses put back. Plus, we don't like while we have a job, right? If you have a job that's paying you consistent income and you can budget around that income, it's easier to control your life expenses. When you're an entrepreneur, you could literally make $30,000 one month and make negative 10,000 the next. You're not going to make negative money in a job. You can make negative money as an entrepreneur.
Or you can be out of work for more than a year, like the pandemic showed us.
Yeah. I mean, you could need, like, you could have a big industry thing happen to you, and now you've got to reinvent and relaunch and spend like 3 to 6 months before you can even sell the new thing. There were people having to take, thankfully, I shut down my physical office at the end of 2019, right before everything went sideways. So that helped me. But there were people that were literally going through that process of like 3-4 months of shutting down their physical office, learning how to operate online, getting their employees set up from home spaces before they could even sell to new clients. They were completely shut down and having to pay their staff during that time or risk losing them and not having them available, right? That's negative lots of monies for several months. We have to be prepared as entrepreneurs in a way that you don't have to be prepared if you're not an entrepreneur.
I also have a take on the overwhelm part. If you're feeling overwhelmed, just about anything, that's really rooted in the belief that you can't handle something, right? So if a client cancels and you're overwhelmed now, what are you going to do? Or your spouse comes at you sideways and you're overwhelmed. That's because your belief is that you're not powerful and strong enough to get through whatever roadblock comes your way. So when you actually slow down and you say, all right, I'm overwhelmed right now, what's going on? Look at it and remind yourself that you've handled every single challenge that has been placed in your path to date. So however old you are is how well you've gotten through all those things. So the data that we have says that you get through it. If you're overwhelmed, stop and remember, why would you not be able to get through this? Just why? So that's where the mindset part comes in. It's really your belief system. And if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to be unflappable.
Yeah. And Axel said something that just reminded me of something too. He said that he had to restart a series of seminars a third time because there's still more than 40% of people that aren't making it to the end of it. That is a great concept, right? Because he's basically saying that 40% of people aren't getting the result. 40% of people entered my system, got lost in the woods somewhere, and didn't come out the other side.
Yeah.
Right? If we're looking for money, new cash infusions into our business, go look for the people that are still lost in the woods. They already trusted you a little bit. They entered in, they came into your world, and they didn't make it where you wanted them to go. Right? For some reason, they fell off, but they had an interest. Go find that reason. Go talk to humans. Go reach out one by one. I swear to God. Yeah. Most people's default reaction is, I'm going to send an email to my whole list and I'm going to pitch a thing. Go freaking talk to them one at a time, right? Because you only
change your life. Go find two people and months. You know, I'm going to pitch a thing, and they're like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Not nurturing, not building a relationship, not trying, because it's panic mode.
Yeah.
When you're in overwhelm, you start, as we said earlier, you make poor decisions, and then that nervous, anxious, desperate energy comes off. Whether you think the person on the other side doesn't know it or feel it, they do. They know.
Which thing are you going to buy more? Somebody who's like sending you a bunch of generic, desperate pitches in bulk to the whole list, or somebody who reached out to you and said, "Hey, Victoria, you got on my email list like 6 months ago. And I was looking you up. I saw that you do some fractional COO stuff. It seems really interesting. I'm curious what drew you into me in the first place. Like, this is what I do, like one sentence. And I'm just curious, what would help you? How could I help you today?" Right? If I got that email as opposed to, "Hi, everybody, we're doing a big sale at the end of the year. We're trying to buy the thing, and I'm getting like 10 of those emails. Which one's going to make me open my pocketbook? Right? Which one's going to make me throw a card at you? The one where you genuinely care about me as a human being, and you reach out and you ask and you start a conversation with me, right? If you need money today, and you have had anybody follow you on social media, comment on your stuff, get on your email list, download one of your freebies, buy one of your things and not the next thing, go frickin' talk to them. Because
You know,
A,
we keep coming back
and
to
B, you
that.
can improve your system.
And you know what's missing from all of this is relationship building, the idea and the concept of building relationships. Because when you have built relationships, this part becomes a whole lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
When you've invested in your relationships, when something happens, first of all, you probably don't have to go run out there. You might have poor money management and finances when you do that, but you shouldn't have a problem with money coming in. Because even that, you have your skills, you have your connections in your network, and you can reach out to them and say, hey, you know, I'm doing this. And you might not ever, I mean, if you've built relationships with your clients and prospects, there should always be something that you should be able to help someone with. Even if you're doing it as a referral to someone that says, hey, how can I help you? And you refer them to someone else, that is coming back. Whether it's in a referral fee or whether somewhere you get another client from somewhere else.
Yeah, I love when people are like, well, what if somebody asks me something I don't know the answer to? Bitch, when have you ever not had an answer? Seriously, come on.
Or when have you ever not been able to figure it out?
Yeah. Like, I'll go find it. I'll go Google it. I'll go ask some people that I know. I'll go something. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in the Neuro-Spicy Academy and somebody comes at you and they're like, you know, I need this. I don't know what to do. And you don't know what to do. Guess what? Come ask one of us. I bet you one of us knows. Or we can point you to somebody that does. We've been at this for a hot minute. We can point you in the right direction of like what to do.
And what happens when they do that? They usually get maybe three similar or different perspectives. And then they were like, oh, wow, now I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And sometimes we give you an actual person. Like, I don't have the answer to that, but I know someone that does. Let me make an email intro. They'll help you out. They'll answer some questions for you, right? And that's exactly what you do. And that's what you would do. If somebody asks you a question that you can't answer, or it's outside of your zone of expertise or something you're not comfortable with, I will literally say, like, people ask me questions. I'm like, look, I'm not a mindset expert. I have a business partner and a coach that is. This is what she usually says to people. I'm not the expert. This is what she usually says to people. If you want a better answer, go ask her. Right. So I'll tell people what I know, but with the disclaimer that I'm not your best source for information on this. Right. And you can do that too. Right. I think we're afraid of conversations because we're afraid that we're going to look stupid. And I've never looked at somebody and said, oh, you're stupid, when they say, I don't know, but let me get you someone who does.
Yeah.
Or let
I've
me
never looked
get
at that
back
person and
to
said,
you on
"You're
that.
wrong."
Let me research that a little bit.
Yeah. And be like, I know a little bit about this and this, but I'm not particularly sure how that's going to come together in your situation. So let me do some research and come back to you. Right? I respect that more than somebody trying to make stuff up on the fly.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. God.
So we were dealing with a roof issue, and my brother was talking to somebody we were looking at, and he said, look, I don't need you to, if you do this professionally, not the roof part, it was something else. Basically, don't tell me that you do it. Even if you say, look, that's not really something I do, but I can get you somebody that does this, good. But don't tell me that, oh, yeah, we can do it, and you can't deliver. The question is not to see, this is just us doing research to see, okay, if you don't do this, then we have to find this person. But don't say I can do it if you can't do it and do it professionally and do a really good job, because then that's going to be a problem. And some feel like, oh yeah, they want to get the sales so much, and you can feel it. Like,
I would say like maybe the one kind of caveat oddball to that would be if you're selling something for like the first time or two and you haven't done it before, but you want to do it, it is the thing you're selling, just be upfront. Don't act confident like you've done this for 1,000 people. Let them know, like, look, I'm just getting started with this. It's a new service that we're offering. I understand if you want to go to someone more experienced, but if you'll try me out, here's what I'm willing to do, and here's how we're going to handle maybe some things that could go sideways. Right? Like, be honest with people. Don't sit here and fake it till you make it doesn't mean lie about it until you make it. Right? It means come at it with the confidence that you can handle it no matter what comes up, but don't come at it with the confidence that I can do this even though I've never done it before. I'm going to lie to you and tell you that I'm awesome at it. Right? Like, that's not what we're saying when we say fake it till you make it. Right? We show up as a stage persona when we show up for our business. who we are in real life and who we are in business are similar people, but they're not identical. Right? When we show up for our business, we're not showing up with all the baggage of whatever happened that morning with a fight we got into with our kids or blah, 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 blah. We're showing up as a happy person that everything is okay. Right? People like happy. People like good stuff. Let's see. Let me pull up one of our other ones. Let's talk about reducing expenses. So we talked about making money come in. We've talked about getting eyeballs on your money, baby, on your money. And we've talked about like investing in things that helps your money make money babies. The other side of that is getting your expenses down without compromising on quality. Almost all the time when I see expenses going sideways, it's either on assistance that you don't need or you're not using correctly, right? It's so freaking easy to hire VAs nowadays that people are hiring VAs with no idea what to do with a VA, no idea what the VA can actually do, no realistic cost for the VA, et cetera, or it's technology, right? It's either staff or tech most of the time. What do we got going on?
He has to.
Hi, Axel.
Thanks.
Yeah, so most of the time, I mean, runaway expenses are in one of those two categories. It's either people or tech, right? With tech, simple, right? Keep a running list of what you're actually spending money on every single month. Every single month, figure out if you still even need that software anymore. If you can downgrade to a lower tier because you're not using all the features on the tier that you're paying for. If you have extra seats, cut those seats down, right? Like this is an audit that you do every single month on your expenses. Is one thing to do. The other thing is to ask yourself before even buying a new software, or if you're considering getting rid of something that, maybe, do I have another tool that does this already? Blows my mind, especially when we give students like high level and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, I went and signed up for Calendly. And it's like, you already had high level. Why did you do that? Well, I needed people to book time on my calendar. High level does that. You have that already. Why did you? Oh, I didn't know. Almost every time. Oh, I didn't know. Now, sometimes there's an actual reason. There's an actual feature that you needed, like it was critical to business, not because you like to have it, not because you thought it sounded sexy, but because it's critical and you'll invest in a separate software. But seriously, the amount of money that people spend on software they don't need when they already have something that does the job, wild to me. Absolutely wild. Oh, I got to go buy whiteboarding software. Do you already have Canva? Canva has whiteboards. Oh, I didn't know that. I need video editing software. Do you have Canva? Canva has video editing. Basic video editing has video editing. Will it meet your needs? Oh, I didn't know that. Do audits on your technology. Understand the technology you already have. Consider if you can do it with something you've already got, right? A lot of people have Google Suite. So they have Google Docs, they have Google Spreadsheets, they've got Google Slides. A lot of people have Canva, which gives you all of your like basic editing needs, software stuff. That makes sense. High level, if you don't have it, or Fable Forge as we've rebranded it. If you don't have it, join the academy, get it there, and get your coaching, mentorship, and all that stuff along with it. Right? Your tech stack should only be about 3 or 4 things if you're a small business owner, for the most part. That is your tech stack. I can't even think of anything else that you would. Honestly, high level, Google Workspace for your email, Canva, ChatGPT. I think that's pretty much it, unless you have a compelling reason to do more than that. Like we use StreamYard because we're live streaming to multiple different things with multiple guests.
WPX, the thing that actually hosts your website, you got to pay for.
Unless you're in high level, and then high level hosts your website. You can even buy new domains in high level. I haven't made it where you can transfer domains in yet. So you still need like WPX, GoDaddy, Namecheap, Porkbun, something like that for your domains if you already have one. But otherwise you can buy a new domain in high level even.
But you still got to pay for it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like car insurance.
Yeah. It's like $10 or $15 a year for a domain name.
Yeah.
But website hosting, if you're on high level, then you don't have website hosting. High level is your website host.
You know you lost them when you started talking tech. I'm back.
KT was saying something about, used to use a new tool to practice avoidance. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody buy new planners all the time?
Anybody
for like a week and then throw them away?
Anybody edit their website all the time? They're like, oh, let me switch this. Oh, let me switch that. Okay, is that bringing in more leads? No, go make a social media video. God damn it.
go building all these big automations when they have no idea what the next step even is for clients. Or it's like, come on.
Yeah.
This avoidance thing is, and it's even with the overwhelm, I believe. Like you start with all of these scenarios to overwhelm yourself and go do nothing, and avoidance.
Complicate
So
the process to
actually
delay the
getting
start.
to the point and saying, I need help. I'm going to get this figured out. I got to get my finances in order. Let me go do the work and take the steps to getting myself out of this situation, into the situation that I want to be in.
Yeah. And having clarity on the situation that you want to be in still blows my mind how often we turn our goalpost into problems. Right. I think we talked about that on a past episode. We had a student that was like, what do I do if I get more than 30 people at my workshop when I don't think I can handle more than 30? And it's like, right now, getting 30 people to your workshop is the goal. So why are we turning it into a problem that we're trying to solve for right now? Right? Like, have a little bit more confidence in your ability to solve a problem when it arises so that you can move forward. I think that's really the biggest difference between like fast moving entrepreneurs and slow moving entrepreneurs. Fast movers have confidence in solving the problem when it arises. We know we can.
I'll cross that bridge when I come to it.
Yeah.
Act before you're ready.
They're confident in their ability to figure it out. Like my mom used to say, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And that's wisdom in that, because why put yourself through that pain?
Yeah. Melanie says living through it twice.
Why do it to it twice? And maybe not even once. I mean, it's twice if you're doing it now.
Yeah, she's like twice as much as what you would have to. Because like if it doesn't happen, then you lived it once, right? In your memory. So that's twice as much as you had to. And then if if it does happen, you imagined it already, and then you have to live through it when it actually happens. That's twice as much as you had to. Might as well wait until it happens and then deal with it then.
The problem is we think that it all comes from the trauma that we endured, right? So at some point in your childhood, most likely, or in your young adulthood, you got blindsided by something that you never saw coming, by a person or a relationship or an outcome, whatever it was, right? It could have been a test that you tanked for the first time, or somebody broke up with you and you never saw it coming, but you got blindsided. And as your defense mechanism and your coping mechanism, your brain said, all right, now we have to go over every possible negative scenario or outcome in advance so that we never get blindsided again. So you just have to retrain the coping mechanism, right? It takes work. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But if you want to get to the point where you're never overwhelmed by anything going on in your life or business, financial or not, you got to build that muscle. I like to tell people you're an Olympian getting ready for your event. So depending on where you're at on your entrepreneurial journey, you could be 4 years away from your event, or you could be 4 weeks away from your event, right? But the training is going to be different based on that timeline and where you're at in the timeline. And it's going to get more intense, and it's going to require more focus. And in the beginning, like we were talking about this on one of the last episodes, the first year entrepreneurship is usually pretty banging, right? You're usually like, hell yeah, I'm so excited. I'm doing this. I'm on my own. Come on. And everybody wants to support you. We love an underdog. Then by years 2, 3, and 4, you've exhausted those first resources. You've exhausted all the people in your network, and you exhausted those people while not continuously building your network. So you sit here for a minute and you go, is it my messaging? Is it my offer? Should I launch something new every month? Should I keep changing my logo? And I was like, no, guys, go back, talk to people, relationship building, pretend. I like to pretend that I'm a realtor. So I will talk to all of my clients at least once a month when we stop working together. I will check in with every single one of them and say, hey, what's going on? How's it going? What are you working on? La, 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 la. And that's why so many of my clients are repeat clients, is because we keep the relationship. I've already invested in you once. You're still I'm like a hairdresser. Whatever I do to that person, they're a reflection of me and the work that we did together. Don't just abandon them when they're no longer paying you. Come on. Do you want them to come back for the new program that you're launching? Yeah, because you built it with them in mind.
Yeah. And there's stats and data to back all of that up. Like the cost to acquire a new customer versus retaining an old one, the cost of a word of mouth referral versus a cold lead in. So much data backs it up, right? Like so much data. We can come with receipts, but it's there. It's provable, right?
Yeah.
It's provable, but it's, for some reason, people want to focus on the things that are the hardest to do and have less of a return. Well, relationship building for us is easy. It's like that's That's the
Yeah, well, I
easiest
mean, for
thing.
people like me that
do.
it's not easy for, knowing that you have to do it means we can build systems for it. Means we can
Yeah.
set up reminders. We can use ChatGPT to write the messages if we're feeling nervous about it. Like, it means we have to put a little bit more effort and intentionality behind it when it's not natural.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we can't do it, right? I am an incredible introvert. I love hanging out with people, but that first interaction is so complicated for me. I hate the just follow-up check-ins. It's nerve-wracking and stressful. Does that give me an excuse not to do it? No.
Yeah.
My mission and my mandate is to go help people. That's why I'm here on this earth, is to go help people build their businesses, create that financial freedom and security and choice faster, easier, more successfully. That's what I'm here to do. I can't do that by not talking to people.
Yeah.
Even when I have 2 business partners that are social butterflies and we'll go talk to all kinds of people, I don't get to hide in a cave and not talk to people.
I also talk to animals. Remember that? Thank you very much. It's not just people. Some of us like many creatures. But I mean, your comfort zone. It all comes down to your comfort zone. We want your clothes to be comfortable, but we want your business to push you.
Yeah. It has to, you have to, that's where growth is. It's not in the comfort zone or the familiar zone.
Yeah, that's what we changed it at Neuro-Spicy Academy, familiar zone.
Familiar zone. Someone said something the other day, and I think this is a Warren Buffett quote, or maybe it's not, but they said the difference between successful people, not unsuccessful now, successful and very successful people, these were the 2 categories, is that the very successful people are willing to do what most people are not willing to do. You know, they're willing to do the work. They're willing to do the hard things, you know, at least until they get to a point where, and it really came down to being consistent and disciplined. That was really what the messaging was. When you're being consistent and disciplined with your money and your finances. And it didn't mean doing what other people don't want, meaning not doing the right thing. It meant doing the right thing, being focused, being disciplined, and being consistent, in this case, with your money and your finances. A lot of people are not willing to do that. They want instant gratification. Yeah. And they're not willing to say, okay, I need to focus for a while.
Speaking of focus,
on like our
discipline themselves for years. And now, they can not here. Axel said, at the age of 61, I don't have debts nor loans and operating reserves that I can buffer for a 24-month minimum.
Good.
That took some discipline.
Yeah.
That took some discipline to do. It didn't just come out of nowhere.
And I think we ran a lot of those numbers, a few weeks ago when we did an episode on like technology and technology expenses. We literally broke down what your typical budget would be for most solopreneurs that are under about $500,000 a year in revenue with like them and like an assistant or tiny team. We ran the numbers. We gave you what that math should be. I mean, I think it's like sub $500 a month in expenses for like technology and the stuff you need to run your business with. You shouldn't go over $500 a month. If you're at the academy, I think it's something like the $200 a month that we charge, plus having at least $20 a month for ChatGPT and $20 a month for Canva, right? So you're like $240, $250 a month for most of your expenses. If you're joining us, if you're not joining us, then it's about $500, $600 a month because it all costs more. We made it simpler, cheaper, faster, easier.
And we have to get over to the Neuro-Spicy Academy right now.
Yes, we do. We actually have to go run our, what is today? Pomodoros, co-working call with the Pomodoros. Yay! So we'll be helping people with the tasks that are, you need a little bit of extra support. You need somebody to hang out with you, run that timer, get some stuff done. It's one of our most productive sessions for people every single week at the academy. So we're heading over there. Head over and join us, guys. Like so many people like, this is what I want to do in the new year. I'm going to wait.
Do it now.
Do it now, right? Because like you've got 30 days free. You get in now. You're good until the end of December. So by the time you're rolling into the new year, you know what you're doing. You know who you are. You know what you sell. You know who you sell it to. You have the plan to go out and sell it and go get those 10K study clients. If you're feeling the financial strain, if you're feeling overwhelmed at all, we got you. Look, Melanie just gave you, I don't know how many tips on how to beat the overwhelm. We just gave you, I don't know how many tips on reducing your expenses, getting new clients in. Imagine getting to actually sit down and talk to us about you, your business, your clients, the things you're selling, your unique situation. instead of the general advice you're getting here, how much better is that going to be?
Yeah.
Right. Imagine that, like having all three of us in your corner week on week.
And learning to get this part here so you can minimize the chances of having that overwhelm. Not just in this area, in any other area of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident guaranteeing that we would save you more than you'll spend.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Look at my business partners, how fast they're like, yeah, duh.
Yes. Yeah. I wish I had us.
Oh, I do too. God, man. Can you imagine where I'd be right now if I had us? Like, holy crap.
How much? Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. All right. So for the people who have paid for us and have us, we are heading over there. For everybody else, sign up. Let's head over. Let's go do it. All right. Bye, guys. Until next week.